My name's Rob Leishman. I own Bully Studios. I've owned it for a few years. No, I haven't owned it the whole time. We do a lot of independent shows. We have rehearsals upstairs. And we do some vending stuff, local vending stuff as well. Try to be more of an arts community center. So this was actually a music store built in the 40s. Then it was a music store all the way till the 90s, closed down. It was a pet store, and then Mark Watkins decided to open a rehearsal space here. And he named it after his dog, Bully. So it's a little bulldog. So we're not mean, it's just we like dogs. And it's ran as a rehearsal space only, and they did some events for about the first 10 years. Then the ownership changed. So what kind of happens in a spot like this is as the first owner ages out, so to speak, gets older, we start trying to hand it over to the younger generation because it makes sense. When I first started playing, there was 15 independent venues in Gastown. Now there's 15 in the Lower Mainland. So it's small venues. It's a real challenge to keep us open, but it's worth it, and the community really needs it. We do a lot of hardcore shows here, and hardcore is really popular because of Turnstile. It kind of hit TikTok, and it's a big thing right now. That hardcore group, we get 200 kids coming here, and they're such a great community. The bands all come to each other's shows. It's actually really cool to see. So like the nonprofit that we're doing, that's the concept, is we have some bigger bands play, we can cap their pay. So we build a coffer, so bands that are coming up get paid a minimum. And that's really important because bands have a really hard time raising any money. It costs thousands of dollars to record an album. They need to gig and they need to sell merch to be able to get the funds to do that. So that's one thing I'm trying to do. I have a whole merch thing where I help bands sell merch. So that's kind of how we give back, as we're here, and then we're trying to provide the space for them to build up and rehearse and give them advice on how to monetize their music to a point where they can at least record, hopefully here or somewhere else. And that's what we try to do, try to give them a place to work out of. Bully's was known as the metal place forever. So we do a lot of indie shows, and we do a lot of punk shows, and we do a lot of, I've tried to do jazz and country. It's really hard to get people in for those shows because everyone assumes that we are what we were 20 years ago. So that's a big challenge. My goal here is to go 7 days a week. I want to have as many different communities using this place as a home base. My thing is I like to do mixed bills. So I like to have an indie band play with a metal band. But it makes sense, like if it's two bands that kind of share some qualities. So two different crowds will come in, they'll mix, they'll get to know each other. Same thing with like social groups, is I love to bring in, I would love to bring in any minority or indigenous bands, but I like to mix them with a mainstream band or whatever we call it now. And then that way you get these different cultures overlapping and cool things happen. Like I've got, there's one person that's recording with us, and he's a hip hop artist, and he's working with a shoegaze band. And it's the coolest thing I've heard. So it's so cool. He's basically doing shoegaze music, and he's doing emceeing on top. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. And I listened to some of the demos. I'm like, this is really fresh. This is a different sound, and it's really cool. You can go to a big concert or listen to the radio or watch something online, but you come to a sweaty punk rock bar like this and see some crazy local band doing something you've never seen before. That's what hooks people to these shows, right? It's like, whoa, what a cool vibe, you know what I mean? It's difficult to communicate to people the value of live local music and art. Like, I've been to thousands of shows. I've played, I toured. I've seen a lot of big shows that were good. All my favorite shows were in little places like this, seeing a band where I'm going, seeing something for the first time, and I know all these artists across Canada that no one's heard of, that are some of the best musicians, and no one knows who they are. And sometimes I've seen bands here that I'm like, I had no interest in, I'm like, okay, whatever, we're booking them, and I'll just sit there and watch them and go, wow, this is so good. And that's the best feeling, being surprised and feeling like you've discovered something that's so cool. And that's the feeling that, I think a lot of people are missing out on. I think it's just getting people to understand that it's not what it used to be. It's always something new, and it's always evolving, and it's important to be part of your community. You can find a true community in some of these shows, because when you're watching a band that you like or a scene that you like, and all the people next to you are sharing that experience, it's just like any other social experience that brings people together.